Okay, hello to you. Um, Give me 1 second. Somehow my, all right. We will start our class. Please join your palms and bow. Four great vows. I vow to deliver innumerable sentient beings. I vow to cut off endless vexations. I vow to master limitless approaches to Dharma. I vow to attain supreme Buddhahood. Welcome to you all and to the ones that will be coming in and joining us a little bit later. We're going to continue on with Master Hongren for a few reasons. One of them was that Master Hongren was one that presented a more comprehensive presentation of the Dharma than the first patriarchs. And he did it in a way that was faithful to the to Bodhidharma, and that was very, very important to maintain this this common ground. And the common ground is essentially ekayana, which is just everything is mind. And so the practice of Chan is going to the source. And it's one that isn't necessarily that we seek the source, because once we begin to seek the source, we create a duality. And this is the study that's within samsara. Somehow we have to find the esoteric way to escape this kind of definitions and conceptualization and conditioned mind that keeps us from really uncovering the source. If we try to seek for it, then again we create this duality. And this is something that goes all the way through the patriarchs to the great Chan masters, where they're just saying, no, don't seek for this. Just in this present moment, understand. And it is this process of knowing. It is not the knowing of samsara. Oh, I know this, 2 + 2 is 4. So it isn't in that way. It is just a knowing as to why it's 4. How did that happen? How was that created? All of these different things. What do those things represent? No, and we do not take it as something that is the gospel in terms of things. We are challenged to look at these things. So in some religions, they'll say God created everything, and so everything comes from there, and then everybody stops at that point and does not question, where all this stuff are you questioning God? You're saying that perhaps God didn't make everything, and you're just kind of going, well, I'm just saying, I'm just probing, I'm looking to see if this makes sense. You're blasphemous to do that. Chan doesn't do that. Chan invites you to look at the study and look at what is being written, but in a way that it isn't being presented that it is the almighty gospel, that in itself is there's no erroneous assumptions in it. It even tells you, even the Sangha is not real, and everything else in the studies, they're not real either. And they say, well, what about the Buddha? And they'll say, who? What Buddha? And so you're given nothing from the viewpoint of samsara to pin your hat on, whether it's from the Buddha, the Dharma, or the Sangha. All of these are questioned. And that's what makes Chan very interesting, because it's going, the answer is not here, but it's right before your very eyes, and it's in the present moment. And you go, well, that doesn't make any sense. But that's what Chan is. Chan is in this way. It is not something that is very, very easy to accept if one has a peculiar mindset of just wanting to be certain exactly where their foot is being placed and knowing that that foot is on solid ground. Chan takes that all away. And essentially what it does is it reverse engineers everything. And if you look at the 12 Nidanas, the laws of causation, and you work from the very end and work your way back through and kind of a reverse engineering, then you get to the source. You see from where all these things appear. You know where the 2 appeared, the plus sign, the other 2, the 4, the equal sign. All of those things are perfectly in their place. We don't have to negate them. We just have to see how they come into being, how they are there, and that's important. And this is Chan at its very best. But a lot of people don't feel comfortable with that, because it challenges the idea of their own life, their own being, and they go, "Oh, I don't know what that means. You know, how can I be and not be at the same time?" And that becomes very difficult for them. And this will be presented in today's lecture. So let's get on, or else I'll run out of time again. So we're going to continue on. This is part 2 of Master Hongren answering questions, but this part's kind of an interesting one. He says, if you're just beginning to practice sitting meditation, then do so according to the Sutra of Contemplation of Amitabha. Sit properly with your body erect, closing your eyes and mouth. Look straight ahead with the mind, visualizing the sun at an appropriate distance away, maintaining this image without stopping. Regulate your breath so that it does not sound alternately coarse and fine, as it would make you sick. So what it's saying here is that as you're practicing, you keep the body erect, you're relaxed. And what he's talking about is, hold on. Oop, there it is. This is a Chinese for the number 1. And what he's doing is he's telling you to look at things and then just to try to visualize a sun right there in the deep horizon. And this is a very common thing in terms of how they would talk about meditating. Bodhidharma talked about wall gazing, which is the same thing. But what they're saying is just put your gaze out. And when he's saying this, what's important is he's saying, look straight ahead with mind. Now, when he's saying look straight ahead, it doesn't mean that your eyes are looking like this. Your eyes are open and they're looking at approximately 45 degrees in front of you. But the looking straight ahead is looking directly at that wall of mind, that wall that in just a few moments, there will be things appearing on it. But you keep your mind on that horizon. You want to have this mind that is is just there. It's calm. That is your focal point. So your focal point is looking deep. It's a different way of looking. And in this kind of looking, it is not the looking of a sentient being. You're actually utilizing the unobstructed view of the Buddha mind. And as you're there and you're looking at things, you see it very, very clearly. And what are you seeing? Mind. That's all you're seeing is mind. You're clear about it. You're so clear. You're seeing mind manifesting in that moment. Wow. Have you ever seen mind? I mean, really, have you ever really meditated in the right way? What are we trying to do when we're sitting on a cushion? When we're sitting on a cushion, do we just sit there and then try to see the method and get all this other stuff out of the way? Or do we just see mind as it's unfolding in the present moment? Whatever's coming up, you know, my back hurts, I'm hungry, you know, this is boring. All those things are coming up and they're all mine. We see them as vexations, but they're wonderfully and perfectly appearing. You put them there. And this you is a very interesting question. Who are you? Really, who are you? What part of you is mine? Where does mind go and where does the body leave off? These are questions that you have to really look at. You cannot look at them in a way where you're just meditating on some image. What we're doing is we're looking into mind, using mind. So it's as if there's all these clouds going by, you know, because you're in the sky of mind. So of course you're going to be flying through clouds. And it's there. It's not that the clouds have to separate. We see through them with this Buddha perception. So this is where he's going with this in terms of this and trying to say to you, look straight ahead. Don't look at the sides. Don't look at the peripheries where all of these images are going to come up. You know they were there. You know it. But they're going to be there. Mind knows that, but you don't have to move your gaze from the horizon. You are just simply very quietly there. And what he's talking about regulating the breath, oftentimes they say, don't try to regulate your breath. But what they mean by don't try to regulate your breath is going like that, kind of like a Qigong method. But what he's saying here is settle the breath. I would use that term rather than regulate the breath, but it really means the same thing. You just settle the breath into the present moment. You only take in what you need in terms of air and exhale what needs to come out. And then it turns around. You don't do it in a herky-jerky way. You just do it very smoothly, just lightly holding the attention of the breath until finally there's no need to hold the attention. You're breathing naturally, which you do all the time anyway, right? So why would you have to do something different? But you breathe naturally as if you were sleeping or relaxing. There's nothing vexing you. But if you are upset, then and you have your breath is going to be irregular. And he says, if you sit in meditation at night, you may experience all kinds of good and bad psychological states, enter into any of the blue, yellow, red, white samadhis, witness your own body producing light, observe the physical characteristics of the Tathagata, or experience various other transformations. And so when we see that, And we're looking at that and we're saying, experience all these things. Some of you have already done that. Some of you have been sitting and your mind has brought up these images. But the only thing is that you just leave them alone. You don't try to work with them at all. You just put them down. And he says, when you perceive such things, concentrate the mind and do not become attached to them. So this is very important, because you're going to have all sorts of different things coming, different colors and experiences or whatever. Just ignore them. Just look straight forward, straight ahead. They are all non-substantial manifestations of false thinking. They're all manifestations. So I often have my students tell me about different experiences they have, and they sometimes maybe they hope that I certify that that's a genuine experience, and I will tell you it's a genuine experience of false thinking. But the thing is that they want to say that they're getting somewhere. Yeah, you're getting somewhere by doing this, but you have to put it down. You can't hold on to it. You can't hold on to anything. So little by little, if you practiced in this way as you're going down, and if you encounter the Buddha and you have all this baggage with you, and the Buddha would say, where are you going? I'm going to the Pure Land. What do you have here? Oh, this was this experience and this experience and this one. Isn't it so heavy to carry all those experiences with you? Yeah, but they're worth it. They were pretty good. So you're actually taking steps back into samsara in having this kind of an attitude, where rather you just let everything go. The most progress I made was just going straight back into samsara and seeing it as ordinary and mundane, nothing to pick up, nothing to put down. You just are there in the present moment. The sutra says all countries of the 10 directions are non-substantial, like space. Also, the triple realm is an empty apparition that is solely the creation of the individual mind. And this is an interesting part, right? Because what we're saying is that the triple realm, which is desire realm, which we're in the realm of form and the realm of no form, all of those are empty apparitions. They're just like ghosts or phantasms. And then it says solely the creation of the individual mind. This should give you some cause for reflection as to what individual mind. I thought there was only one mind. How can the individual mind be the creator? Isn't everything created by the mind? Yes. But you have to reconcile that. You have to find the way to reconcile and see this in the right way. Otherwise, you'll get trapped into thinking that the individual mind is this mind that is separate and apart from mind. But it is just simply functions in a way in which it is manifesting and appearing to create these things, but it's not really the creator. But because of the influences of karma, then it appears that these things are being created by the individual mind, without the individual mind truly understanding that it too is a creation. He says, do not worry if you cannot achieve concentration and do not experience the various psychological states. Now he's kind of really talking about Theravada and the jhanas that one can go through, and saying, don't worry if you don't have enough concentration, because the Theravadins were really pushing concentration. And so he's saying, don't worry about that or these psychological states. just constantly maintain clear awareness of the true mind in all your actions. That's it. We go back to where he started this, is maintaining this true awareness. And he's saying constantly. And that's the operative word in all of this, is that it's continuous. When we meditate, our whole process of meditating has to be continuous. If it's not continuous, then it leaves room open for thoughts to arise that have nothing to do with the function of the mind at that moment. So then he says, if you can stop generating false thoughts and the illusion of personal possessions, and last week we talked about that and said, what are these personal possessions that we have? And I talked about it here. Even carrying all of this baggage around with you is personal possessions. So those are illusion. Then you will realize that all the myriad dharmas are not other than the manifestations of your own mind. There's a typo there. It's not one mind, like you won the mind, but it's own mind. And the typo, that's my own obstruction that I want to change that. But it is, all of these things are appearances of your own mind. Now he reconciles this idea of this individual mind with the own mind. And this is the part where we have to work on, because that's in the present moment. And the mind is there in the present moment. There are appearances of ideations of ego, personality, or life and being that are constantly popping up. I like jelly donuts. I don't like Volvos. I don't like clowns. I like sky. I don't like clouds. All of these things are coming up, and you think that that is you and your individual mind that are making these appearances. But in fact, all they are is also phantoms, causes and conditions that are arising. But they happen so fast to us, we get confused and we get tired. And so we just use this fake default program that's there that really isn't a true program. It's a virus. And we have to put that down. How we put it down is to be vigilant in the present moment to see when it is arising. That is why they say, constantly maintain clear awareness of the true mind in all your actions, not just when you meditate, but in all your actions. If you really want to do this, follow his instructions. I guarantee you they're going to work. The people who start practicing this way, they change their lives. They don't have to be worrying about whether they're enlightened or they're not enlightened. I read sometimes like Robert there or Patricia, they sincerely practice. I don't have to say, oh, you're enlightened or you're not enlightened or not yet or whatever. It doesn't matter. What matters is that they're in a constant state of practice. So sooner or later, it's their mind will be with less obstructions, because that's the way it works. That's what he's telling you. If you do it this way, then the mind will clear up. The Buddhas only preached extensively using numerous verbal teachings and metaphors because of the mental tendencies of sentient beings differ, necessitating a variety of teachings. So sometimes I teach this way, sometimes I teach that way. If I have a beginner class, I take baby steps, but I'm not adverse to throwing them in the deep end of the pool, just to give them a little thing. I'll throw a lifesaver out, but I don't know whether to throw them a mint or a cherry flavored one. But in any case, that's not going to save them. Okay. In actuality, we're down at the bottom of the page now, and it says, in actuality, the mind is, Hmm. Sorry about that. Well, I don't know what the heck happened to it. But in any case, I'll paraphrase it. It says, in actuality, the mind is the basic doctrine of all. Do you have that next page? So as she's getting it, I'll tell you, it says, there's the basic doctrine of all the 84,000 Dharma teachings. And so it's saying that everything that is taught in the Dharma is not other than the Buddha mind. That's it. And so when we see things in this way, we understand this is our school. This is Chan. This is Ekayana. Ekayana meaning just mind. And so whatever is being taught, go and see for yourself. Read any Dharma. Read any Dharma, and you will see that that's something else. You will see that this is the way that okay, thank you. See that in actuality, the mind is a basic subject of the 84,000 dharmas, ranking the three vehicles and definitions of the 72 stages of sages and wise men. So it's saying all of this comes down to just mind. And then it says to be able to discern one's inherent mind is to improve the ability to maintain awareness of it in every single moment of thought is equivalent to constantly making pious offerings to the entire Buddhist canon, and to all the Buddhas in the 10 directions, who are numerous as the sands of the Ganges. It is equivalent to constantly turning the wheel of the Dharma wheel. What it's saying is that keeping the mind in the present moment completely aware is a perfect reflection of the Buddha mind. Beyond this, there is no beyond. It is just thus, in this way. And that is what's important here, because this is how he's saying it, and saying that it's constantly turning the Dharma wheel. You want to turn the Dharma wheel? Keep the mind in the present moment. Keep it clear. Be aware of what is coming up. He can't make it any clearer than that. Honestly, he can't make it clearer than that. If you really want to do this, if you really want to practice, talk to people like Robert and Patricia, and see if it didn't change their lives. See if by really working hard on this, they began to get their realizations. They may not be big realizations, but they're realizations, and it gives them encouragement to go forward, and it gives them faith in Buddha Dharma. So this is important, because all Buddha Dharma is incorporated into maintaining this clear awareness in the present moment. So let's see what Hui Ning does. And here again, this is from the Platform Sutra, and this is chapter 3, questions and answers. And so up, let me see, okay, 6:3. So I've got time. In this part, he's saying, one day the prefect Wei entertained the patriarch and asked him to preach at a big gathering. At the end of the feast, the prefect Wei asked him to mount the pulpit to which the patriarch consented. After bowing twice reverently in the company of the other officials, scholars, commoners, Prefect Wei said, I have heard your holiness preached. It is really so deep and beyond our mind and speech. So many times people say that, and they say, Gilbert, I heard you speak, but it's so deep. I don't understand what you're talking about. You just pay more attention. It will come to you, you know. But you wish you could give them this exhortation of Master Hongren to say, this is how you do it. And that's the same thing with saying, you know, the people of this day, the Chan Master, Master Ling Chi is saying, the people of this day say that they can't do it, you know, and he says that's precisely what they have to do, is work harder to do it. Don't just simply succumb to saying that you can't do it. And so he said, I have certain doubts which I hope you'll clear up for me. And so White Ning said, if you have any doubts, please ask me and I will explain. What you preach are fundamental principles taught by the Bodhidharma. So Prefect Wei is saying that, and then in other ones, he's Emperor Wei. Are they not? Yes, replied the patriarch. I was told, said Prefect Wei, that at the Bodhidharma's first inning, I'm off on that. He's not an emperor; he's a prefect. That the Bodhidharma's first interview with Emperor Wu of Liang, he was asked what merits the emperor would get for the work of his life in building temples, sponsoring monks, giving alms, entertaining the order. And he was saying, I've done all this stuff for all this time, you know, and he was asking Bodhidharma, what merit do I get for doing all of this stuff? And this is really important of what Huaining is going to explain to him, because he's figuring, okay, I have all this merit, but it goes to one of the right practice, when we practice the right view, the right way of doing things versus doing things for what you'll see later on is felicities. And I'll explain that in a moment. And he said that, and he told them, you have no merit whatsoever for all of that. So he was very, very confused, the emperor. And so this is the story that Prefect Wei is telling him. And he said, now I cannot understand why he gave such an answer. Will you please explain? These would bring no merits, replied the patriarch. Do not doubt the words of the sage. He says, don't doubt Dhammo. You have to see this as it is. And he was correct in what he was saying. Emperor Wu's mind was under an erroneous impression, and he did not know the orthodox teaching. So here the reference of orthodox teaching is one that is referring to subitism, sudden enlightenment, or just mind. This is, so looking at things in this way, this is the Chang school, and saying this is what we do, is we see everything as mind. And suddenly then the appearances that have been holding you back are released, and mind is clear. Such deeds as building temples, allowing monks to be ordained, giving alms, entertaining, will bring you only felicities, for which should not be taken for merit. So this is very interesting, because it's like if you give something to a poor person, can I have money for a sandwich? And you give them some money, you walk away feeling good about it. felicity because you did something good. But Huineng says, that's all right, but it isn't merit. It is just something that you do. So later on, you can ask somebody, what merit do I get from this? And he's saying, you don't get any merit. Merit is different than felicities. Felicities being this kind of a feeling that you have done something well. And so it's different in terms of that, where it's not merit. Merit is something that turns the Dharma wheel. It is something by staying in the present moment, by whatever you do through body, speech, and mind is perfect there. It is not conditional on something that you're getting something for doing something. It is just the perfection of conduct in that moment. So then he continues on. Merits are to be found within the Dharmakaya. They have nothing to do with the practices of attaining felicity. So here he's saying they're to be found in the Dharmakaya, but as he's referencing it, he's referencing saying, knowing the Dharmakaya. That knowing of the Dharmakaya is not the knowing of a sentient being, but it is the knowing of the Buddha mind itself, such as we have used the example many times when Avalokiteshvara was coursing through the deep prajna paramita. He perceived that perception is not samsaric, it's the Dharmakaya, and that perception is the knowing aspect of the Buddha mind. So there's a difference here, and the difference is between life and death. So he says, the patriarch went on, realizations of the essence of mind is Kong. And here, I believe this word, and they didn't give a Chinese version for it, so I'm kind of like a little bit out on a limb, but I seem to think that this word, the Kong that they're using, is the same word that is used when we say Kung Fu. And the idea of Kung Fu is this this great effort and serious effort and sincere effort in terms of what they're doing. They're saying good desserts, but the good desserts come from this serious effort. And the equality is te, and I'm not familiar with that word. Perhaps somebody that's Chinese could say something. Anipan, is that Kong?
Virtue?
Or, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Virtue.
Virtue. Okay, good. Yeah, good quality or virtue. Okay, and that fits perfectly. I think the word that you use, your definition is actually better than the translator here, because they say good quality, but it's actually virtue as a not an action, but as how would you explain it? As what it is. And this virtue is a virtue not of samsara, but of the Buddha mind. And so we'll see how that works.
Gilbert, one moment. Those are like the paramitas, right? In Taoism, for example, the te is like the paramitas, right, Anyi?
It can be. I think they're using it. He's using it in a more rather than in a reference of paramita, these virtues. I think in terms of as you'll see, it is kind of like how I talk about the paramita, saying the paramitas are a reflection of the virtue of the Buddha mind itself, working its way down. And so this is the definition of the Buddha mind is this virtuous mind. And the paramitas are something that we subscribe to try to elevate our practice to that. But here Huineng is using it for using it going downwards. Okay, so we'll see how it goes. But thank you for that comment, because it's interesting, because it's a different way of looking at how one practices, and this is really important. And so he says, when a mental activity works without impediment, so that we are in a position to know constantly. So this word to know constantly, the true state of the mysterious functioning of our own mind. That's a whole lot right there. You know, you can't go on. If you read that, don't you ever go on without reading that again and again and again until you have an idea of what that might mean. There's just too much there for you to go on. It sounds good and you go, well, what does that mean? I don't know. I mean, it's just, it went over my head. But you have to look at this. And so let's go back to it, because it's really, really important. Let me see if I can find it again. So we are in a position to know constantly. And again, this constantly our continuous awareness of the mind, to know constantly the true state of the mysterious functioning of our own mind. This is exactly what Hongren was saying, but this is Huineng saying this is what comes from constantly being aware of your own mind, is that one then knows this mysterious functioning of our own mind. So you could even change that term mysterious to esoteric, this secret meaning, which isn't necessarily a secret. Don't tell anybody. It's like, please discover this. Discover how your mind works, the secret functioning of your own mind. So what is this secret functioning of your mind? I'm going to leave it open. Okay, Harry said. Okay. Since you volunteered, Harry, what is the secret functioning of your own mind? I don't know what is he unmuted.
Suchness.
Suchness.
The secret functioning. You can never go wrong with suchness.
No, wrong. It's thusness. No, anybody else? What is this? Because it has to do with the secret. It is suchness, but I mean that's like that's too tricky, too political. You're from New York, so I forgive you for that. All right. But anyway, oh, Mark, go ahead.
Causes and conditions never fail.
That's part of it, because that is how the mind works. But then take it one step further. What is the mysterious part of all of this? Because it's a mystery, because we think we have this individual mind, but what is there?
We're using the Buddha mind.
Yeah, and the Buddha mind does what? All right, Seth, I can see you.
Don't know mine.
Yeah, you know, I was gonna say causes and conditions because it talks about the functioning of mind, and the other part is just mind.
The secret is that everything is created by the mind.
Oh, okay.
So it doesn't matter. There's no exact right and wrong to all of this. But it's something that I want you to think about in terms of that. When you look at this and you say, well, what is the secret thing? I want to know what it is, or what it could possibly be. And so when we see this and we say, that's how it functions, is that it is manifesting creations of its own device in accordance with cause and condition never fail, the 12 Nidana. It is perfectly functioning in that way, but it is doing that by virtue of mind itself, not something separate and apart, not an individual mind. And that's what's important here. And that is that flavor that's coming all the way from Bodhidharma all the way through now to Huineng. And what we had seen in Master Hongren in terms of doing this. So that's pretty cool stuff, that and how he's saying that, and if you look at it in the right way, it really can drop the floor on you. Okay. And he says, we are said to acquire Kong Te merits. So here he's talking about that in relationship to felicities, that where he set up above, that was felicities. Here, these are true merits, because they have nothing to do with the individual self. These are merits that essentially can be transferred. So this is much more valuable than a Bitcoin, okay? Because you go, oh, here, I'll transfer my Bitcoin. I didn't even see anything. You're right. So, well, you guys will find out in about 10 years. But in any case, this is important, because it's showing that there is this effort, the right effort that's there. And we're also getting this virtue. The virtue is the virtue of the Buddha mind that's there. It has nothing to do with Emperor Wu or whatever, he thought he was getting out of it. It is, Huineng is going through very careful examination of it so he can explain it to him and see, perhaps he can begin to turn the mind's eye inward. And then it keeps going. Oh, let me check my time. Okay. Within, to keep the mind in a humble mood is Kong, and without, to behave oneself according to propriety is Te. That all things are a manifestation of the essence of the mind is Kong. There it is right there, that everything is a manifestation of the mind. He's telling you that this is an open book test, and he's telling you what this mystery is, that everything is created by the mind. It's the essence of the mind. And that term essence is very, very important. You will see this coming up in sutra after sutra, treatise after treatise of this essence, because the essence is kind of like a flavor or a scent. It permeates whatever is there, and it's as if one is going to have a jasmine tea, and the essence of the jasmine is there with the tea, and it picks up that flavor and everything, so it's kind of an important word to kind of whenever you see it, try to break it down and what they're meaning by that term. And that the quintessence of the mind, and we have to stop there, because you have to know what quintessence is. And this is something that, please, it doesn't matter if you're a college grad, a high scholar, or whatever. If you don't know a word, don't pass it by. All you have to do, is just pick up your phone, and there's this lady that's there, and all you have to do is say, "Hey, Siri." Now she's asleep now. I should have known that. "Hey, Siri, what is what does quintessent mean?
Quintessence means the most perfect or typical example of a quality or class.
She's lazy today. Last time she said, hey, you want more? And I said, sure. But the thing is that that's how fast it takes, 10 seconds. And you know what that word means. But that makes it important because this is a perfection or a quality. We were talking about the paramitas, right? And the perfection of them. That perfection of the paramitas is a reflection of the Buddha mind. It is not the Buddha mind. It is a reflection in samsara of the Buddha mind. So when we reverse the perception, we see things clearly. So this quintessence of the mind is this perfectness. It is precisely this way. And when you see things, it makes a difference. The quintessence of the mind is free from idle thoughts, is the te, is a virtue. So if your mind does not give rise to a bunch of selfish thoughts, fearful thoughts, desirous thoughts, then it is perfect. It's functioning in accordance with what needs to be there in that moment. You are not you. You are not Gilbert. You are not something. You're not Harry or Robert, anybody. It's mind. And when you start treating it in that way, it changes things. It changes it because all of a sudden you are using the Buddha mind, which you have been endowed with for who knows how long. It's never been born, never been created. You've got it straight out of the box. You got it. But then we choose this crummy fake version of it. And so we have, we go around thinking that we are there. And then as a result of it, we suffer. Just like Master Hongren said, it's like the horror of that, it's very sad. If you seek for merits within the Dharmakaya and do what I just read, what you will acquire will be real merits. So this again goes back to the Heart Sutra. It is real, not false. What is it? It's the Buddha mind. It is using the Buddha mind continually to be aware in the present moment. You have that already. Just use it. Why worry about, whether you can get a donut or not get a donut or whatever else? He who works for merits does not slight others, and on all occasions he treats everybody with respect. He who is in the habit of looking down upon others has not got rid of the erroneous idea of the self, which indicates his lack of kong. Because of his egotism and his habitual contempt for others, he knows not the real essence of the mind. And this shows his lack of te. So by not knowing that, then it's not so virtuous of a person. And it was very strange today. I was in court with this client that just disappeared on me. And he didn't communicate with my office at all. He didn't pay me for another thing, but I still went to court for him and did my best. Most attorneys wouldn't have even done that at that point, but I went to court and I fought for him, but I had nothing to go on because he wasn't around to help me prepare. And so when we were walking out, he was talking to me and saying, I didn't communicate with your office because my mother was this way. I had COVID twice. I had this problem and this problem. And I went, has it ever occurred to you that all these experiences that you're suffering are a product of your own karma of things that you've set into motion. And this is the reason why you are suffering now. And, you know, he kind of got it, but kind of didn't get it. You know, it was as if he got it, but chose not to address it, just simply because he was more comfortable with his self, albeit a miserable self that is constantly in problems. And he doesn't, and he thinks that excuses will buy him something, but the excuses don't change the circumstances. They don't change what's happening there. You know, he is still miserable and suffering, and it's pitiable. And I don't hate the person for it. I just pity him because he's so far from clearly understanding things that he thinks that it's okay to have an attorney appear for him, knowing that he's not paying the attorney, and he's shameless about that. And he even said to me, he went, "I'm so sorry for myself." He couldn't even say he was sorry to me. He was sorry for himself. I said, "You're exactly right about that. You should be sorry for yourself." So anyway, that's not Kong. The reason I bring up the example, because it's a very strong example of somebody that clearly does not have an idea of how to work with others. And if one is a taker like that, you know, they will constantly be losing things simply because it has to balance out. And so when you don't see that, there's no virtue, but there's no effort. The effort is very, very important. And in the Chinese community, the term Kong, when you say Kung Fu, it means something more than martial art. It means a sincere effort that one is putting forth in whatever they're doing. So if whatever you're doing, you put in a strong effort, it will pay off. If you don't do that, then it will not pay off, and you will get what you put into it, which is not very much. Okay, let me see where I'm at. Almost. Learned audience, when our mental activity works without interruption, then it is Kong. So when they're saying the mental activity, again, this is continuous. It has to be continuous, that our mental activity, whatever we're doing, this mind is the mind of the Buddha. And when it works without interruption, then that is Kong, that is a good effort. And when our mind functions in a straightforward manner, then it is Te. So when we do this, and the product of all of that continuous mental activity is virtue. To train our own mind is Kong, and to train our own body is Te. Learned audience, merits should be sought within the essence of mind. They cannot be acquired by almsgiving, entertaining of the monks, etc. We should therefore distinguish between felicities and merits. What the patriarchs, excuse me, there is nothing wrong with what the patriarch said. So he's saying to the prefect, there's nothing wrong with what Bodhidharma said. It's correct. You know, it is Emperor Wu himself who did not know the true way. Prefect Wei then asked the next question. I noticed that it is a common practice for monks and laymen to recite the name of Amitabha with the hope of being born in the Pure Land of the West. To clear up my doubts, will you please tell me whether it is possible for them to be born there or not? So he doesn't have faith, and so he's asking, all right, can you be born in the West, in this Pure Land? And so Huining has a different take on this, which is my take in terms of this. And he says, listen to me carefully, sir, and I will explain. According to the sutra spoken by the Bhagavat of Sarvasti for leading the people to the Pure Land of the West, he's referring to Shakyamuni Buddha, just very fancy title. To clear up my doubts, would you please tell me whether, excuse me, I'm sorry, Joe, I apologize. It is quite clear that the Pure Land is not far from here, but the distance in mileage is 108,000 miles, which really represents the 10 evils and the 8 heirs within us. And those would reflect to be the 10 paramitas and the Eightfold Path in reverse. Those to those of inferior mentality, certainly it is far away. But to the superior man, we may say that it is quite near. Although the Dharma is uniform, men vary in their mentality because they differ from one another in their degrees of enlightenment or ignorance. Therefore, some understand the laws quicker than others. While ignorant men recite the name Amitabha and pray to be born in the Pure Land, the enlightened purify their mind. For as the Buddha said, when the mind is pure, the Buddha land is simultaneously pure. Although you are a native of the West, if your mind is pure, you're sinless. And so then he reverses it and says, if somebody has an impure mind in the Pure Land in the West, then they're not going to get it, and they don't understand the essence of the mind. And this is important. It brought back some memories to me of, I had gone to see this one talk that was given in a home where this one Pure Land master was teaching, and he and I listened to him, and I was thinking, yes, I understand, but I was having these thoughts of Huining, and I did not want to cause him harm or have him lose face, but it still bothered me, in terms of that, because the essence of his talk was, to reach the Western Pure Land of the Amitabha Buddha. And so afterwards, I talked to him, but I tried to be as diplomatic as I could, but to follow the doctrine, such as what Huining is saying here, and saying, the Pure Land, in essence, is not a place. It is mind itself. And if we can see that, and we can see that this here is the Pure Land, then there is no need to go to the West. The Pure Land is right before our very eyes. And he agreed with me, and he understood I was being very delicate in the way I was talking, but essentially I was espousing Huining's position. And like I said, I didn't want to harm this person at all, but I wanted to be clear in terms of how we see what the Pure Land is. And the Pure Land is just the virtue of the present moment. And this is where we will find the Pure Land. We can be in a Pure Land where other people can be in a cesspool. If they choose to follow us, then they too are in a Pure Land. Wouldn't you want to follow that person and put trust and faith in that? Put trust and faith in Master Hongren, trust and faith in Huining, and then you will not be far from it. So I'll leave it there. We covered a lot of ground today, but I think that this is important for us to kind of understand how the mind works. So I thank you all for listening in. I probably went through this a little bit faster than I wanted to do, but it's something that I wanted to kind of finish this up and start on a new endeavor next week. And Harry is giving a talk at CMC on the 24th on the Lotus. And what is your topic from the Lotus?
It's chapter 24.
Oh, chapter 24. Oh, okay.
Yeah, this Sunday, it's the 25th of September.
And it's
Wonderful.
entitled, what is the chapter 24?
It's Wonderful Voice Bodhisattva. That's the name of the Bodhisattva. It's a remarkable chapter.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, you know, those to deliver them and present the profound, you know, requires quite a bit of preparation. There's no doubt about that. So, you know, best of luck to you that you can do that. I thought Changhua was giving something on the Queen Shamala. Was
She
that?
has been, yeah, but this is, yeah. So, but slated for various talks through the fall.
Oh, okay, so hers is like to be continued in the future?
I think so.
All right, so if you want to hear about the Lotus Sutra and very interesting pieces, then, you know, please tune in to Harry's talk. So, no, I have a lot of confidence in him and how he presents the Dharma. So that's good. So I'll open it up for questions. Yes, Changshen. Okay.
Gilbert. Yeah, I have a question about because you mentioned the like one sentence, and then you say we don't. The Hongren says we don't need to practice too many concentration, and then you mentioned about Theravada, and then I always have a I think I'm not so clear about the difference between the emptiness Theravada they experience and the difference between Theravada and the Mahayana emptiness. Or Mahayana, we will say, or Chen, we will say see Buddha nature or the mind or what. But the Heart Sutra, you say is emptiness other than form, form is not other than emptiness. But Theravada, or we say like early Buddhism, maybe Theravada, or now in Sutra it say Hinayana, okay, and the emptiness they kind of like they kind of experience it, and but they kind of abide in it. That's why they don't want to come out to deliver session being. So, but I would like to know more about the difference. What is the realization? It's really different, or what? Yeah. I just feel like
I have to be very diplomatic in my responses, you know, because I don't want to cause any harm or to do anything in terms of to put them in a bad light. I could say it's a different approach to the same mind, but their approach is one where they really emphasize concentration of the mind and getting to different levels of jhanas, where I think Hui Ning is probably the best example of Chan and Subitism of sudden enlightenment. And sudden enlightenment isn't like, okay, if you do this, all of a sudden you're suddenly enlightened. You're suddenly enlightened after putting in the effort to practice well. But the effort is just exactly like what Hui Ning is saying, is that you have to use a good Kung Fu of practice, Kung Fu of Buddha Dharma to practice, and that will manifest the virtue that we call the paramitas, the Eightfold Path of the 37 Factors of Enlightenment, but it comes from the mind down. And so So the other ways in terms of looking at it and trying to develop concentration, what I've seen is a lot of people in the Theravadins, they get lost in the concentration. So much so too with Vajrayana, where people are given what do they call it? I'm sorry, my head is tired today. The picture to look at.
Visualization.
Yeah, visualization, but it's like there's
Tanka.
I'm sorry,
Tanka.
Tanka.
Chanka.
Thangka.
Is that's the picture that they visualize?
Yeah.
Okay, I know there's a different name for it, but I'll go with that one. But with that, they spend a lot of time trying to develop the concentration on that, or concentration on different things such as visualizing a white dot in a black field or a red dot, different things like that to develop the concentration. Was very interesting because I did a lot of that in practicing the Qigong, doing the same kind of concentration. So it's a very effective way to do it, but it doesn't take you to the next step, which is it doesn't take you into samatha. I'm sorry, it doesn't take you into samadhi. So there's a kind of a disconnect between samatha, concentration, and samadhi. And because they're concentrating so much on this, they don't have that balance, although they want to try to have the balance between samadhi and illumination or vipassana, but it's difficult for them to get that quite right. Whereas in Chan, it's something that, because we don't emphasize concentration as much, although when you read Master Hongren and Master Huineng, they're clearly saying it has to be continuous, but it's not, let's say, samsaric concentration as much as just allowing the mind to stay in one place. And that's a little bit of a different way of looking at it in terms of that. When we talk about Kong, the emptiness, we're really talking about keeping the mind in this present moment and seeing everything is fundamentally an appearance, and that we see the world in this way rather than seeing it as everything is real, and seeing it. There's a difference there, because when we start giving validity to things and saying that it's real, then we run into the problems of what's real, not real, and we don't really, we can't really, how would I say it, get to the secret meaning that everything is created by the mind. And when we understand that everything's created by the mind, the esoteric aspect of the practice is what delivers. It is not, if it was in the words, then you'd all be delivered, and you'd be spreading it all over the place because this works. But I tell you, you can do this, but it's going to take you a lot of effort to do that, the Kong part of that, to develop the virtue, but it will work. So there's that faith there. But the faith comes from a different way. So the faith is just like in the Chan poems, faith in mind. So the faith is in the mind rather than seeing things and saying, okay, we're saying that this is real. And we want to concentrate our mind and to develop these levels of practice. I was always against it, even when Shifu would talk about different levels of practice. To me, if you hear me, I rarely talk about levels, just simply because I belong to the Huineng school of just that you can go from level 1 to level 10 or whatever in a snap of fingers. And so I think that it is that kind of a different way of looking at it that we really emphasize the emptiness. The emptiness is because if everything's created by the mind, there's nothing outside of that. It is not real, nor is it unreal. It is just this emptiness that's there. That is, to me, a finer tuning of what the Buddha taught. Even though Hinayanas, or what they call Theravadins, say that they have a corner on what the Buddha taught, and then after a certain point, people were making up a bunch of sutras. It isn't in that way. When you start reading those sutras, the Prajnaparamita Sutras and the Tathagata Garbha Sutras, they are incredible. I mean, they are so amazingly deep. And so it's sad that they look at it and discredit that and say, oh, well, you're not really a Buddhist because of that. You know, you're not really doing it. But to me, I look at them, and if they're Buddhists and they're practicing, that's better than not practicing. So I think that's important. I think the other aspect of the differences was the emphasis on Bodhisavas, and the real strong emphasis, rather than just, because Theravadins will say that we have Bodhisavas too, but it's more or less kind of like they kind of refer to it. But in Mahayana, there's a strong emphasis in this practice of being a Bodhisattva. That's why we have the emphasis from Samantabhadra of action, and to putting it in this way. And we have the wisdom and the compassion. All of these things all seem to fit together to explain more, to expand out what the Buddha really taught. It's all there from the very, very beginning, but they're saying, no, this is what he taught, and all this other stuff was made up, you know. But it doesn't matter, because it makes sense, it works. And if one gets realizations, it is in that way self-proving, but self-nature proving. So it's a different way of doing things. You know, I don't say, oh, they're bad or they're Hinayana, you know. They just have a different way of looking at it. But ultimately, if they practice sincerely, they too can put aside the idea of reaching nirvana or going to the Pure Land and look directly into mind, and that mind will know. It will know. It doesn't know Mahayana, it doesn't know Theravada, it doesn't know Vajrayana. Mind just knows all. There's a difference. So I kind of talked a lot about that, but just to kind of give you a background on that. So hopefully I answered your question, maybe not, but
Yeah,
I
I
did
think
my best.
maybe I don't use Theravada because that's too sensitive. I maybe use Hinayana. Okay, now it's very Mahayana standpoint. Okay, I think my question is want to understand, because I heard a lot for a long time about the emptiness. The Hinayana sea is different from Mahayana, and or Sheng is more like it's non-dual. It's not denied the phenomena. Phenomena exists, but it is empty. So that's why empty not than form, form is not than emptiness. But Hinayana, according to Tiantai or Shifu also say that the way they maybe it's about method or what, I don't know. It's just they say it by analyze the phenomena. Analyze the phenomena itself is there is no, it's always changing, so there it is empty. So it's a different kind of, I don't know, it's a method or what. Anyway, just then the result is that more Hinayana it become deny the phenomena because it say it doesn't exist, because it means it's always keep changing. But Mahayana way is more non-dual. But I would like to know more is what kind of that, and the non-dual is Buddha nature. So the two difference, or just it's just concept, or it's the same thing.
I think where you're at is you're looking, it's not so much that you're looking at the difference between Theravada and Mahayana. You want to understand Kong. You want to understand the emptiness in general and say, why is their Kong different than than the Mahayana one, but you then, by examining emptiness, then the emptiness will teach you that one day the emptiness will just come up, and it will be there. That's why I say ultimately there's no difference between the Theravadan and Mahayana in achieving the goal. There's different means to do it and different ways they look, and they do not have a strong emphasis on emptiness. It's just the same that they say, okay, well, we have Bodhisavas and we have emptiness, but that's not their emphasis, and that was what the biggest difference was in terms of Mahayana practice. Was it was a strong reliance on emptiness, and that other aspect of it, of that's wisdom, and the wisdom produced the compassion, and that there was not so much of an interest in reaching nirvana. But that too shows the difference between the emptiness that they use and ours, because we still see nirvana as being an appearance. And that's why they said, in the sutras, they'll say that nirvana and the defilements of sentient beings are the same thing. They don't take you outside of that. And that's their kind of idea of emptiness is incomplete, at least to me. Okay. So keep working on that. It's kind of, I go through stuff like that all the time, and you just toss it around, in terms of looking at things and saying, okay, well, what is this individual mind, or this Buddha mind, and how does it work? And the only way you can do it is keep going back to Nagarjuna, where he didn't take a stand. It is or it isn't. It's neither existent nor non-existent. And then the mind allows you to it kind of sets all that out for you, where you feel comfortable with that. But that something cannot be explained, just has to be experienced. Okay, David, next.
Okay, thank you, Gilbert. I just wanted to ask a very quick question. I was listening to the presentation, related to effort and virtue. And my question is this also the same, or does it lead up into following function in the present moment?
Yes, that's what we do, is we follow function. We follow the function of being in harmony with the present moment and the environment. So if we're in harmony with the environment, we don't make the environment worse, whether it's polluting or mind polluting or voice polluting or whatever it is. We follow function of what needs to be there, using the Buddha mind, that virtue to guide us, and then the actions then will act accordingly. Okay. So just kind of keep playing with that, and you'll see.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Tori.
Thank you, Gilbert. I have a beginner's question on meditation. So this happens maybe a few times, and usually when I close my eyes, I just see behind my eyelids, and usually I would sense that I'm seeing with my eyes, my flesh eyes, right? Physical eyes. So there will be times that I get really, really exhausted, tired, and I'm trying to sleep. And then it's like part of me brain still stimulated. So I get caught in between the kind of like falling asleep and being fully awake and using my physical eyes. And I feel like my eyes, they're just seeing way out there, and I'm not using my physical eyes anymore, but I just feel very spacey and quiet and just nothing there. And sometimes I may have like an image or whatever, but when I notice what's going on, I guess I get excited, and then I start using my physical eyes again. I feel like I've just like fully becoming awakened. So I don't know if that is like a state of meditation, because it's very clear. I just feel it's very clear and light and clear. Not tired. All of a sudden, that tiredness just went away. I don't know what those types of experiences are or were. Thank you.
Yeah, as long as you don't cling to those experiences and let them be, and just stay with that. If you have that kind of an experience, just stay with it. Don't judge it. Don't grade it. Oh, this is like the best experience I ever had. Or look, here come the colors, or here come the light, or here comes the Buddha, or whatever. Then you mess it all up. But it is just the essence of your mind that you're seeing. And so when the essence of your mind is there, then all the body tension goes away. You feel free of the body tension. You're not in a coma. You're not in a dream. You are just, the mind is just free for that moment. So the trick is just to keep the mind free like that. But it's not easy for us to do that. So what we need to do is just learn how to accept that experience without picking it up. If you pick it up, then you've messed it up. As soon as you pick it up, then all of a sudden your mind starts conjuring up images and colored lights or whatever, you know, and so the answer is, it's good for you to have an experience like that, so long as you just put it down. And what's really important for all of you is you have to put it down while you're meditating. Okay. And then after that, then people are going, Gilbert, I just had this thing and it was going this and this is like, and whatever, you know, and that's already too late. But if you just understand that, you know, it's very interesting. The next time I see you, I'll know anyway. And so the thing is that it's good. Just stay with it. Don't be searching for experiences, but they will come. And you just have to leave them alone, and you'll realize that's what they say, freedom and ease of body and mind. And that's what you had gotten to. You know, is it a realization? Not quite yet, but it's not bad. It's like at least it's in the same neighborhood. Okay. So that's good. So keep
Thank you.
doing it. Okay, you're welcome. Okay. Louis.
Thank you for your lecture tonight, Gilbert. What is the difference between continuous awareness of the present moment and silent illumination?
There's no difference. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. If you're doing silent illumination correctly, if you're doing silent movie watching, then it's worlds away. But if you're doing silent illumination right, then that's the way it is. You still have this this kind of like 1,000-mile stare that you look way into mind. It's not the same one that they have from the Vietnam War movies where they go, oh, well, he has a, you know, like he's seen so much. It is more like you're clear about things. You're clear about how you what you're doing in that moment. And so if you do it right, there's no difference. That's what you're doing. Whether, you know, you're doing it with silent illumination, you can do it with any of the meditation methods. It will do the same thing. Okay.
Including Huato?
Yeah, it is what has to be there in any method, the essence. You're not numbing the mind, okay? It's quite to the contrary of that. Your mind now, it's as if you had a kink in the hose and you were trying to sprinkle your lawn with it, and it's just got, and all of a sudden, you know, you figure out that if you twist the hose, the water will come out very strong, and it's that powerful. The thing is, you have to know how to use that, and once you start experiencing that, not let the self come back in and mess everything up. So you do that, but there's no sensation, oh, I'm rushing, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing that. It is just, it's silent because the mind is not entertaining linear thinking. It is just there as what they say, one thought for 1,000 years. And it doesn't need to go anywhere. It doesn't need to be rushed. It doesn't have to be waiting for the click, click, ding, or whatever. It is just clear. And it just comes with time. You'll get it one day because you're asking the right questions. Okay.
Thank you, Gilbert.
Oh, no problem. Any other questions? No questions? These were kind of these last ones have been pretty deep, you know. People like Tori coming in, you know, it's you jump right into the deep end of the pool. So I'm happy that you're here and hanging in there with it, you know, because it's not something that is easy, but it is very rewarding. I mean, my life is so much different now than it was when I was 20 years old and insufferable to be around. And so the thing is that it's worth doing. And I only wish I'd started earlier, but it's a matter of the causes and conditions of doing that. So some of you, you know, all of you, whether you're young or old, that, you know, you can do very well with this. So I really hope that you practice this. You have to put it in your daily life. And if you do, that's where it makes the difference. And that's why I say people, you know, they're talking to me, and I know they put it in their daily life just simply because what they're saying, you know, to me. And that's important. Okay. So that's a kind of where we're at. If there's no other questions, I'll see you next week. Keep practicing. You know, thank you all for attending.